things before I like them. Sweaty. Yeah.
It's just not fun.
Anytime.
So did you have a summer vacation? I don't think so. You worked, didn't you?
Well, I worked until end of June, then I had a vacation.
Well, and Suzanne said y'all were going to go do something, just kind of hang out. I guess that was going to be the vacation.
We
with the
went
kids.
to Italy.
Well, that's pretty good hangout.
Well, we wound up in a place that was, you know, for years and years and years, I partied, you know, a lot before I became a family guy. And I must have kept some people up with my stereo because I paid for it this vacation. We wound up in a house right next to the people that were up till 3 in the morning every day, every night. And we didn't get any sleep. So I was just a payback for all those years that I kept people. It was a rough vacation.
I know I had one of those this year too, but we won't go into that. Now, you also been in prison this year. Acting, you got paid well to be in prison, but still. Did it give you the willies going in there? It gave me the willies watching you, and I've been in one of those places, and it's not real cool.
Well, it's like, you know, when you're looking for an apartment and you go into a room and it looks okay, but there's something weird about the feeling in there, and you say, well, it's not for me, and you don't know why you've said that, and then you find out later there's a big ugly divorce in there or something happened in that room, and it was ugly.
Has bad karma.
Whatever. You can use those New Age terms. It's just a feeling for me. Well, imagine that times 10,000 walking into this prison cell. It just was the feeling was so palpable, anguish and pain, and years of this, and the conditions they were in were horrifying. And
it smells funny too.
It smells funny. It's angry. It's not a fun place to be.
How about getting locked in solitary for a little while? Was that weird?
It was weird. I went in the full gear. I asked them to treat me like they would treat any other prisoner, and I put my hair over my face so they wouldn't recognize me. And I went in there for a few hours, and it was an interesting experience. I learned a lot from it. I learned about I imagined what it would be like to be in there, and I got a sense of what you hear and what you feel, but you know, I can't pretend that I was a prisoner. I always knew I was going to get out of there, and that is the other, you know, to feel that you're never going to get out. It's got to be a truly challenging situation for any person.
This movie is about what? Hope? You know, that people always never lose your hope, keep your eye off the ball, the goal.
Yeah, I think it's about more in prison. I think that to a certain degree we're all in prisons of our own making in our lives.
It could be our work. It could be anything.
Sure. From the time you're a kid, there's always someone telling you can't do something, you can't be something, you can't go there, you can't do that. Whether it's a teacher or a parent or a spouse or a boss, there's always someone trying to build these walls around you to keep you from going someplace. And what I think this movie is about a person that is completely surrounded, but is able to see past those walls and able to live for what he believes he can be, rather than what other people believe he is. And that's, I think, what will speak to people about this film.
When you look back at other projects you've done, is it like how fun it was or how rewarding it was? How do you grade what your work has been?
Generally from how fun it was, how the experience, whether the experience was a good one or not.
And that's based on whether you liked the people you were working with or whether it worked or what?
Right, whether I had a good time or not.
It's hard to... Now, how'd you have a good time making a prison movie? Because Morgan Freeman is a great actor to work against.
Morgan's great.
You enjoyed the clothes or what?
The clothes were horrible. But
didn't have to worry about appearance too much.
Actually, we had a great. I had a lot of basketball parties after rap every day. So we'd go back, and I had a little court at the house I was at, and that's very loud. We kept our sanity, had barbecues and stuff, and it wasn't the most fun location, I got to tell you. Mansfield, Ohio was.
And you looked a little rough during this. I mean, they had to probably make you look bad every day, right?
No, I didn't get much sleep.
You just looked that bad all the time.
Yeah, I didn't particularly get 8 hours of sleep. It was kind of a hard experience,
It looked like it would be hard. I mean, Were you around the wife any during this time? I would think what Susan would have thought about you
She
too much.
was doing the client for most of the, so we were not far away from each other, but there's no direct flights from Mansfield to Memphis.
So is that kind of good when you're in something like that?
Well, no, it's good and bad. I mean, you concentrate more on what you're doing, but it's times when you just,
Need a break.
Yeah.
Need to get out of prison.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you again. Great film.
Nice
Really
seeing you,
enjoyed
Jimmy.
it. Thank you. All right. This movie, when I watched some of it, it reminded me of the time I had gone into an abandoned prison. It gave me the willies. Did you get that kind of claustrophobic, kind of eerie feeling?
Not in the actual working, but when we first got to the set for the rehearsal, we were given a tour, and we were taken through a section of the prison that has been condemned, and that was where the cell blocks were. Oh.
You know, it affected me. It made me not want to go there for real life, for something I had done. They say, and I always thought it was a great idea to take kids, to take kids to prisons and show them how terrible it is, and it might make them want to be good, even if it affects one person that way.
Well, they have.
But they say it didn't work.
Doesn't?
They said it didn't work.
Like
Scared Straight. Remember there was a movie
yes,
called
that's
Scared
what I was
Straight?
thinking about.
And they said that they ended up after years of looking, checking people down the road, that it really didn't affect the people one way or the other. And I have a hard time believing that. Maybe it doesn't affect most people, but if it just affected one or two, what harm is it done?
That's true. But that's amazing, though, because I think that, it may just have to do with your own personal makeup as to whether or not you are scared off of a lifestyle, as it were. Boy, it gets into deep stuff, though.
It is deep stuff, because you start thinking about prison life, and you see that after this movie has to be a very close depiction of what goes on in there, that the people really aren't worth anything when they leave. After they've been incarcerated for years and years, they don't know anything. So why should we ever let anyone out of prison after we've kept them there?
The way we have prisons now, we shouldn't. Because what are they equipped to do but go back?
Right.
Right. So, what have we said?
But one thing in this movie
terrible.
you learn is that people have to have hope. You have to accept the bad job you have, or accept whatever it is in some cases, and just make the best of what you are. And I think that's a pretty nice theme in life, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you have to do that anyway. You have to try. You have to try to make the best of what you have to work with. None of us are guaranteed anything in life, I was looking at a movie last night, and they were burying somebody, and in the burial, the priest says, we bring nothing into this world, and it is certain we'll take nothing out. So in between, you get here with nothing, and in between, it's up to you. But I guess maybe that's what all those people in prison have done too, made the best of what they have to deal with. That also has to do with your mindset.
Because that becomes a dysfunctional form of family.
It is. That's what they tell you.
Give up. I'm going to be your mother and your father and your wife, but watch out.
Your picture hangs in one of my rooms in my home, along with Mr. Eastwood, who said, signed my poster of Unforgiven. Is that one of the works that you're proud of?
Unforgiven? Yes, absolutely. I'm a guy who grew up as a kid, my Roy Roger straw hat on, and my Gene Autry gun, and my broom handle for my horse. Like all kids, we're all cowboys, and all my life I was cowboy, and that was my first real shot at actually doing it, and doing it with the mister.
That's right, you got to do it with the man.
Yeah, so, yeah.
But you are proud of that, right?
Oh, very, very.
I saw you the night.
Proud and pleased.
Lean on Me was on somewhere, and I watched that, and that was fun.
That was an amazing success story, if you ask me, because it was a little movie, but it certainly seemed to have a tremendous effect on some people. Kids liked it so much, and that's a lesson that I don't think we're all quite getting. Kids like the idea of this man's grip on their lives.
People want leadership. They want somebody strong. They don't want some weak sister.
Right.
We all want somebody to follow, I think, deep down.
Well, yes, but we want someone. These kids look at this guy. You know what he said he was? He said he's dealing with a lot of children from dysfunctional families, and he's got to be a father, so he cannot be the bad guy. That's great.
Steve?
Mr. Whitmore, my petunias are sick. Can you help my petunias? and
Tear them
daisies?
out.
Tear them out?
You can eat them, you know.
Should I use Miracle Grow?
Not on them, no, not when you eat them. No, Miracle Grow, I tried that at the cocktail party, serving it. It's not good. It makes the tongue green, but you can eat the petunias, yeah.
Good, I was worried about that because you're the man. You are,
Indeed,
you are the
yes.
Mr. Do you have a
can-
green thumb?
You
I
can
didn't
jot
notice
this down.
that.
I do have two of them.
Two
Yes,
green
but I'm not
thumbs?
going to show them to you. No, I'm very ashamed of them.
Does that surprise you how well known those commercials make you? If you've done all
Oh,
your...
not at all. Oh, my God. You know, they invade our living rooms all over the country, yeah. Once or twice, well, in the spring usually, before the big planting season, yeah.
I mean, you're there every spring, just like the birds.
I hope so. God, I hope so.
I went to a prison once that was abandoned, and it felt like it sweated, if that's possible for a building to sweat. But it gave me kind of an eerie feeling just being
Oh,
there.
sure,
It was
you
empty,
bet,
no one
you
was
bet,
there, you know,
bet.
but
You can almost hear the moans.
you could
know.
almost hear the moans, and you felt death in the air.
Alcatraz is now, you know, open to the
That one
public.
didn't make me feel bad, by the way.
Didn't? Well, they dressed it up maybe a little bit.
I guess so. I kind of enjoyed the view,
It
you
is
know,
a
and
lovely
everything
view,
from
yeah.
Alcatraz.
Yeah.
But some of these prisons like you were in this film are very depressing holes.
Imagine being in them.
I
That
can't.
would be depression. You know,
Did you try to
ad nauseam.
imagine what it would be like? I guess you had to, as an actor, what it would really be like to mentally be in that state.
No, because we shot in a real prison, and in an empty prison. And that, as you say, the sweat and all the rest of it, the voices and the presence of those men that had been incarcerated there was omnipresent. So one didn't have to work at it. At least I didn't have to work at it.
You play a guy who has trouble adjusting on the outside once he is finally paroled. Did you get that impression just from being in a prison that how could anyone that's been in there for years and years and years ever go back on the outside and be normal?
Yeah. Well, if you live as I do, away from large urban centers, all you have to do is go into a city, you know, after being away for a long time. And the noise, just the noise factor alone, and the cars and the people and the, you know, it's really very, very disturbing. So that wasn't a reach either, really. You know, because if you live alone, a lot as I do, and then go into a situation that is cacophonic, then you really get that right away. I think anybody that goes into New York, for example, gets off the plane having come from a quieter place, immediately are assaulted by that sort of thing. And that's what that poor devil had to face when he got out of prison.
Over the years, how have you approached work? What has been your mental state toward work? Is it something you had to do to make a paycheck to be able to eat, or is it something you just felt like you just had to do because...
Well, if you can combine the two, the money and love and liking it, then that's optimum. That's marvelous. But very often, of course, we all have to do things. That's why I have trouble telling my kids, you know, it's not going to be all, as my uncle used to say, pork and sunshine. It's gonna have its down moments. Now, because of the commercial that I do for Miracle Grow, I'm able to go. This last summer, I just was in Williamstown. I did 3 plays that I wanted to do and wound up out of pocket doing them and enjoyed it immensely, only because I'm able to do it with the money that I'm earning doing the commercials for Miracle Grow.
Yeah, some work to live and some live to work.
Yeah, oh boy. I think it's the greatest gift that we can find on this earth, is to do something that you like doing and actually be paid to do. It's a wonderful thing and not too common.
And don't you find that your personal life is very much affected by your happiness at work?
Oh, gee, I think everything is, yes, indeed.
It's probably not a good thing, but it's a fact of life.
Well, yeah, I think so, sure. Our life is everything, you know. We have to somehow deal with the darker side and the lighter side, and try and emphasize the lighter side, which in my instance would be family. That's where I reside. That's where my soul resides.
What's your relationship with some of your older movies? You ever dial around on television
No,
and you ever
never.
see a movie?
If I do, I go on to something else immediately.
Just don't want to see yourself, or
No, I have to shave it every morning, and that's enough.
You're not one of these guys who are narcissistic, who have to have pictures of yourself around.
Oh,
and-
no, please.
Did you ever watch dailies when you were coming up?
I used to, and then I found out that it was very deceptive because the wardrobe people would go and say they were wonderful, meaning that the suit looked good, and so on. Or the prop guy would say, well, the props are there. Yeah, we got the props, Charlie. So they'd say, wonderful. And no, and more than that, the assault of seeing how imperfect I was too much to bear.
You know, you hear that, and I think that's one of the most surprising things that people in the outside, when they hear movie stars and people on television talking about that. I mean, most people who are on camera don't care a thing about seeing themselves because their image is not what the image is that someone else sees.
None of us, you know, I'm 72 years old and I'm still 22. Or maybe even younger at times, you know, and then you see this older man, you say, who is that? I don't know him.
At what point in your career did you think you finally knew what you were doing a little bit?
Oh, not yet. Well, that's not true. No, I don't know. There wasn't a moment when I said, oh, gee, I can get away with this.
But at some point you kind of felt like you had some idea about what you were doing as opposed to
Well,
being scared to death all the time.
Yeah, well, I was never scared to death, really, and I think that well, it's the response of an audience. You know, if they're not throwing things, you know that you're doing something right.
Is one of your favorite characters Will Rogers?
You bet.
I thought so.
Indeed.
He's one of mine.
What a man, what a man. Boy, you know, he knew it all, as far as I'm concerned. I've yet to find an area that he was lacking in.
Nice seeing you finally.
Nice to see you, Jimmy. Nice to meet you.
Did you go back and watch a lot of old prison movies to kind of get yourself in the mood?
Oh, golly. No, not really. I'm pretty familiar with most of them, although I did go back and see Birdman of Alcatraz. I think Cool Hand Luke as well. I think this really does sort of harken back to the old-fashioned, you know, prison pictures that were done once upon a time. There's no, in recent years, it's all sort of these testosterone-drenched, you know, slugfests in prison, which is not what this movie's about at all.
Is it technically hard to shoot in a prison? I would think lighting would be a problem, for one thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, technically it's an amazing challenge. Just the sheer scale of the place we were shooting in Mansfield, Ohio. If you want to move from any given spot in the prison to another spot, it's a major move just because the place is so big. And in terms of lighting, yeah, our cinematographer, Roger Deakins, was either lighting an enormous room the size of a warehouse, or he's lighting really tiny spaces like in a cell or something. So yeah, it was quite a time-consuming, very challenging process.
Did the place ever just give you the willies being there? It certainly does when I've been into an old prison. Just kind of make you kind of feel kind of, ugh.
Yes, yes. And I wasn't the only one. I think everybody felt that way, particularly when we first arrived, because to see a place like that for the first time is very unusual, and particularly when it's empty, because all the history and the life that, you know, everything that occurred there is now gone, and you only catch echoes of it. You know, your mind fills in a lot of blanks, so it tends to be a rather haunting experience when you first walk in a place.
Yes, it could be the ultimate haunted house, an old abandoned prison.
Yeah, it really does seem to be. A lot of the people who worked on the film referred to the ghosts. You know, not physically necessarily, but just in terms of your the emotional response that a place like that elicits. Once, of course, you start dealing with the logistics of, oh, we're making a movie and we're spending every day trying to make our days and get a certain amount of setups, et cetera, et cetera. Once it's boiled down to the physical process of production, it just becomes another location to you. But certainly when you first arrive there, it's kind of hard to shake that feeling of, you know, dread or oppressiveness that a place like this has.
Hasn't your career path been a little unusual for most Hollywood people? I mean, a lot of people are DPs and that kind of thing before they become directors, and you know, you were off in another area of production design, and come there. So there is no right way or no perfect way to get to the top of this ladder, is there?
There is there is no predetermined path. It's, I mean, if one wants to be a dentist, you know which schools to go to and what, you know, courses to take. In film, it's whatever path works, really. I started off as a production assistant, golly, 14 years ago. And from that moved into set dressing, constructing sets. From that moved into screenwriting, and then from that into this now.
Who would you say is the most important member of the team, of a film team? If you had just have one person to carry with you that you knew you just had to have?
Oh my gosh. Everyone on a picture is really so vital that I can't imagine trying to make a movie with certain people gone. The producer is crucial. The cinematographer is crucial.
Otto Preminger said once if he had to go be on a desert island, he would take a key grip.
His key grip? Well, you
that
can't.
Way that guy could build the boat to get him off.
Well, you certainly can't get by without the key grip. So he may have a point there. Yeah.
Or DP, some people say.
A DP is very crucial. Yeah, certainly for for my end of things. That's a very tight collaboration from moment to moment on a set. So how do we shoot the movie is pretty much the two of us, figuring that out moment to moment.
Because you have this vision in your head, and he technically has to be able to do that, what you see, right?
Yes, but more than that, there's also very much a give and take in terms of it can be a very productive and collaborative process in terms of how you put something on film. In other words, he's got a vision in his head as well, and so it's it's very much a mutual process.
Is that something you work out before you start shooting? Because I would think it'd be like a really bad marriage if you got out in the field and it didn't work.
Yes, you do try and work out as much of that as possible prior to shooting, with storyboards or shot lists or just discussions with the cinematographer. Specific ideas, approaches on certain scenes, et cetera, et cetera. Not that conversation ends when you start shooting. It's only really beginning once you start. It continues throughout the entire picture.
Well, you made a beautiful film. I really enjoyed it last night. It was a wonderful 2 hours.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you kindly.
Right,
I appreciate that.
It really was. It was 2 hours. You just kind of you felt like you're there.
Oh, great.